Rain lashed the junkyard under a sky choked with acid clouds. Rusted war machines and broken drone husks formed jagged mountains of forgotten battles. Cade trudged through the sludge with a flickering lamp strapped to his chest, boots sinking into the muck. He was a salvager, one of the last honest ones in the fringe zones. He knew this place like his own veins. Which bots held usable cores, which piles hid old mines waiting to shred him into vapor. Tonight, however, he wasn't here for spare wiring. He was here because he was desperate. His sister's lungs were failing. The colony's oxygen filters were failing faster. He needed something big, black market big, something he could trade for clean air. Then he saw it. Half buried under sheets of corroded plating lay a shape too clean to belong here, a sleek shoulder guard, black matte ceramic, the faint glyph of a wolf's skull etched into it. Cade dropped to his knees, digging frantically. Piece by piece he unearthed an entire suit, mercenary-grade powered armor, mostly intact. No scorch marks, no plasma damage, just mud and time. He wiped grime off the visor, and his pulse slammed in his throat. A mercenary suit like this could buy a whole shipment of lung meds, maybe even a new filter core for the settlement's dome. He'd never have to crawl through scrap again. Thunder boomed overhead. He didn't care. He reached out to touch the chest plate and froze. A chill prickled his spine. Someone was behind him. He hadn't heard footsteps over the storm, but he felt it now. The weight of a gaze, the promise of violence wrapped in silence. Slowly, Cade turned. In the flicker of his lamp, rain streaming off his nose, he saw her, a towering figure in a similar suit, sleeker, polished, with the same wolf's skull, but painted in crimson. Her helmet's eyes glowed cold amber. A rifle as long as his entire body rested in her hands like it weighed nothing. "Step away from it," she said. Her voice was a low growl, distorted by the helmet, but unmistakably human and furious. Cade's mouth worked, but no sound came. He could barely breathe. He did the only thing that made sense. He lifted both hands, palms out, trembling. I didn't know," he stammered. "I swear, I thought it was just scrap." "It was," she cut in, taking a step closer. Her boots sank with a hiss into the sludge. "But it's not yours, and if you touch it again, you'll join it in this graveyard." Lightning split the sky, lighting her armor in stark lines of death and crimson justice. Somewhere under the roar of rain, Cade heard something worse than her threat, the soft, predatory hum of the suit's targeting systems locking onto his heartbeat. Cade's breath fogged the inside of his cracked rebreather mask. His mind scrambled for options. Run? Grovel? Fight? He wasn't even armed, besides a rusted plasma cutter that might tickle her armor at best. "I'm not a thief," he said, voice shaking as acid rain dripped down his neck. "My sister, she's sick. I just needed something worth enough to trade." A harsh laugh crackled through her helmet's speaker. She stepped so close he could see the micro-drones drifting in and out of the armor's joints like living metal. "Touching my dead brother's suit won't save your sister," she hissed. Her visor retracted slightly, just enough to show eyes like shards of ice under a scarred brow. "What makes you think you deserve it?" Cade's shoulders slumped. In his head he saw Leah's weak smile, the way she coughed blood behind her hands when she thought he wasn't looking. That vision stiffened his spine. "Because no one else will help us," he said, louder now. "You warlords left us to rot while you play your private little blood feuds. We salvage your scraps just to breathe another week. So yeah, maybe I don't deserve it. But she does." For a heartbeat, the mercenary said nothing. The rain hissed on her suit. Somewhere behind her, the junkyard shifted. Metal groaned under its own forgotten weight. Then she laughed again, but this time it sounded tired. She lifted her rifle off his chest and slung it behind her shoulder in one smooth motion. "You have guts, scrap rat," she said. "Fine. You want the suit? Earn it." He blinked rain from his eyes. "What?" "Put it on," she ordered. "Right now, and pray it doesn't reject you." Cade gaped. The suit. Him. He knew stories. Merc armor bonded with DNA locks and mind-link implants. If the suit rejected him, it could fry his brain in seconds. "You can't be serious." A gauntlet the size of his head grabbed his collar and hauled him to the armor pile. She shoved him down onto the chest plate. "Serious enough to waste a bullet if you hesitate. So move." Hands trembling, heart hammering like a reactor core, Cade touched the cold chest piece again. This time it didn't feel dead. Something beneath the plating thrummed like a heartbeat. A whisper crawled into his skull. Foreign code, searching for permission. He gritted his teeth and whispered, "Do it, please." The armor split along its seams with a hiss. Internal servos adjusted for his smaller frame, pistons sliding. Metal embraced him like a hungry beast. His world shrank to a chorus of data streams and flashes of old battlefield memories not his own. Somewhere outside the whirring storm in his mind, he heard her voice, distant, almost respectful. "Congratulations, Scrap Rat. Now you're bait." Before he could ask, a sound rolled across the junkyard. Heavy footsteps, multiple sets. Red targeting dots danced over the metal heaps. Predators, rival scavenger clans, hungry for any suit left behind. The mercenary chuckled in his comm channel. "Welcome to my war, rookie. Try not to die before I'm impressed." Inside the suit, Cade felt less like a man and more like a trapped spark in a forge. Data surged through his mind. Threat markers, wind vectors, ammo readouts he didn't even know how to interpret. His heartbeat synced with the low hum vibrating in his bones. Outside, the junkyard came alive with the whispers of death. Dozens of shapes, scavengers clad in mismatched plating and bone masks, slipped between the rusted husks. Their red sights swept the dark, blinking through the acid mist. Somewhere above, lightning cracked like the god's own laughter. The mercenary, Raisa, he heard her name flicker in the armor's old logs, stood at his side, still and silent. Her armor's shoulder cannons pivoted soundlessly, tracking the movement beyond the broken hulls. Cade swallowed, tasting bile. His hands trembled on the suit's arm-mounted pulse rifle. He'd never fired a real gun in his life. "Don't think... Shoot!" Raisa's voice growled in his comms. "This suit is smarter than you, trust it." He barely had time to nod. A masked scavenger lunged over a rusted wing, screaming through a rebreather pipe. Instinct, no, the suit, reacted. The pulse rifle barked. A blue bolt punched a smoking hole through the attacker's chest. Cade recoiled at the smell of flash-burned flesh. Then the scrap heap exploded with chaos. Scavengers poured in from all sides, howling for blood and steel. Raisa's cannons spat plasma, cutting two down before they hit the mud. Cade moved without thinking, guided by the suit's ghostly muscle memory. Duck, pivot, fire. Each shot painted the scrap heap in red mist. His mind screamed, "I'm going to die, I'm going to die." But deeper beneath the panic something else stirred, a hunger that wasn't his. The suit remembered 1,000 skirmishes. It wanted him to fight. And so he did. He slid behind a gutted engine block, catching his breath, armor plates deflecting ricochets like hail on steel. He risked a glance at Raisa. She fought like a demon queen, her blade splitting helmets and her rifle barking fire in all directions. She caught him staring. Through the comm she laughed, a harsh, delighted sound. "Good, rookie. You bleed for this or you die for nothing." A scavenger leapt at him from above, a feral with hooked knives. Cade raised his arm. The suit's wrist cannon auto-deployed, barked once. The feral's head burst like rotten fruit. He fell back, gasping, realizing he was laughing too, half in horror, half in wild adrenaline. The suit purred at the edge of his mind. More. A sudden, heavy thud cut through the storm of blaster fire. The ground trembled. Cade looked up. A brute loomed at the edge of the fight, 3 meters tall, armored in welded plates and trophies of bone. Its eyes glowed with scavenged optics. It dragged a hammer twice Cade's size, the word exile scorched across its chest. Raisa swore in his ear. "New plan. You keep the little rats busy. I'll handle the ogre. Stay alive, rookie." Then she was gone, a streak of plasma and fury lunging at the brute. Cade turned as 2 more scavengers lunged at him through the smoke. He raised the suit's arm, voice hoarse but steady now. "Come on then. Let's see if I'm still just scrap. I'm still just..." Rain hammered the dead junkyard like nails on iron. Sparks flickered in the dark, painting the wrecks in strobing flashes of red and blue. Somewhere beyond the maze of broken hulls, Raisa's battle roared like a thunderstorm, metal clashing, the brute's roar splitting the acid mist. Cade, chest heaving, stumbled backward as another scavenger lunged for him. He'd lost count of how many he'd dropped. 5, 8. It didn't matter. Each kill stitched a darker thread through his mind, tying him to this cursed armor. More, the suit whispered, its combat subroutines urging him on. Adapt or perish. He sidestepped the scavenger's blade, turned, fired. A bolt punched clean through the raider's skull. Another form lunged from the shadows. Cade blocked with his armored forearm, felt the blade glance off, and countered with a brutal elbow to the throat. The scavenger gurgled, fell twitching in the mud. Cade Walker, he thought dimly, starving junkyard scum, now killer in someone else's skin. He barely recognized the laughter in his own voice. Suddenly, the comm crackled, Raisa's voice, raw with exertion. "Rookie, report." "I'm alive," Cade rasped, scanning for new threats. "Can't say the same for them." Raisa barked a savage laugh, then it turned into a grunt of pain. Through the suit's HUD, Cade caught a flicker of her fight. The brute had her by the throat, hammer in the other hand, ready to crush her helm like a tin can. "No, no!" Cade roared. He broke into a sprint. Armor servos whined as he vaulted a rusted wing, slammed through 2 scavengers who tried to stop him. He landed in the circle of shredded metal where Raisa and the brute danced their deadly waltz. She struggled in the giant's grip, helmet cracked, blood leaking down her jawline, but her eyes burned with defiance. "Cade, stay back!" she hissed. The brute turned its glowing eyes on Cade. It laughed, deep, static-laced. "Little thief, metal rat. Come die." Rage flared behind Cade's ribs. The suit answered him, pulse cannon priming, targeting reticles locking on the brute's exposed servos. "No more dying," Cade snarled. He dove sideways as the brute swung Raisa like a rag doll. Rolling to one knee, he braced the cannon on his forearm and fired point blank. Plasma bolts slammed into the brute's chest, searing armor, burning the word exile into smoldering ruin. It staggered, bellowed in fury, dropping Raisa. She hit the mud hard, rolled away, coughing blood. Cade didn't stop. He charged, armored boots pounding the junk and fire. He ducked the brute's backhand swipe, skidded under its legs, and jammed the pulse rifle into the gap behind its knee joint. "Time to scrap you back to hell," he fired. The brute howled, toppled to one knee. Cade climbed its armored back like a wolf tearing down a giant. He planted the cannon against the base of its skull. "Tell your gods hello!" He pulled the trigger. The brute's visor cracked with a blinding blue flash. It toppled like a felled tower, crashing into a heap of twisted steel. Silence fell, broken only by Cade's ragged breathing and Raisa's coughs. She dragged herself up, leaning on a scorched bulkhead. Her helmet hissed open, revealing a battered but fierce grin. "Not bad for a rat," she rasped. "Now you owe me a drink." Cade laughed, half mad, half relieved. He knelt beside her, helping her stand. "Guess I do. What now?" Raisa's eyes flicked to the smoldering brute, then back to him. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the ruined junkyard turned graveyard. "Now," she said, voice low and dangerous, "now you learn who that armor really belongs to, and why every warlord from here to the rim is about to come looking for you." Lightning licked across the sky, lighting Raisa's bruised face as she wiped blood from her lips. Cade held her steady while the brute's corpse smoldered behind them, sparks crackling in pools of rain. "You want the truth, rookie?" Raisa rasped, voice gritty but sharp as razors. "That armor on your back? It's older than this planet's junkyard bones." Cade steadied his breath, pulse still hammering from the fight. The suit's systems hummed under his skin. He could feel it listening to her, like a predator scenting old prey. "I thought it was just mercenary kit. Some outlaw's lost toy," he said. Raisa barked a bitter laugh that turned into a wince of pain. "Not a toy, a ghost. A war crime wrapped in servos and dead men's teeth. We called it the Grave Host back in the rebellion days. They made 24 suits, living code, adaptive weapons, half AI, half demon rumor. Each pilot was bonded to it. When they died, the armor kept fighting." Cade felt the servos tighten around his ribs, a cold whisper threading down his spine. "I didn't sign up for a haunted exosuit." "No one ever does," Raisa growled. She touched his shoulder, metal glove tapping on the scorched plating. "And now it's bonded, it won't let you go, Walker. Not unless you rip out your own spine." Thunder cracked overhead. The suit's visor flickered, static, then ghostly data scrolling in languages Cade had never seen. "You doomed me," he said quietly. Raisa tilted her head, one corner of her split lip curving into something like pity. "I tried to stop you, rookie, but you survived a brute with your ribs still inside you. Means you're worth more alive than dead." "Worth what? A bounty? A test subject?" Cade snarled. His hands trembled. He wanted to tear the helmet off, to breathe clean air, but the suit refused him, locking every latch tight. Raisa pressed her forehead against his, visor to visor. Rain streaked across their steel faces. "You're worth a rebellion, Walker. That suit remembers how to kill tyrants. The warlords hunting us, they remember it too." Somewhere out in the wrecks, new shadows moved, hushed voices, clinks of weapons reloading. The scavenger gang hadn't come alone. Mercenary signals pinged on the suit's HUD, converging from 3 directions. Raisa's eyes flicked left, right, her cracked visor shut with a hiss. She pushed Cade back hard enough to rattle his teeth. "Listen close. When this starts, you don't think. You let it fight. Every instinct you have, ignore it. This armor is smarter than both of us." Cade's throat tightened. The grave host's voice, no longer just metal code, growled in his skull, deeper, older than human speech. "Host integrity, bonded. Threat index, acceptable. Primary directive, survive." A shape darted through the rain. Muzzle flash bloomed. Bullets sparked off Cade's chest plate. He barely felt them. "Rookie, move!" Raisa roared. The suit obeyed before Cade's brain caught up. He pivoted, pulse cannon roaring to life. Plasma lanced through the night. Mercs screamed and fell like paper targets. Raisa rolled beside him, blade flashing, cutting through armor and bone. As they fought back to back, Cade felt something terrifying and holy coil in his chest. The armor wasn't a prison. It was a promise. Every ghost welded into its plates, every pilot who died screaming. They were still here. The grave host fought with him, guiding his aim, snapping enemy rifles in half, counter-punching blows he never saw coming. Blood, oil, rain, everything blurred into a savage dance. By the time the last merc hit the dirt, lightning lit the battlefield, Cade standing tall, steam rising from the suit's cracked plates. Raisa limped up beside him, panting. "Welcome to the rebellion, Walker." He didn't answer. He couldn't. The armor hummed like a living god around him, and in the pit of his gut, Cade knew. This was only the beginning. It was only... Smoke curled over the battlefield like the breath of a giant beast. Cade stood at the center of the dead, his pulse roaring louder than the storm above. The grave host suit was battered, scorched in places, but alive, more alive than him, he suspected. Raisa leaned against a half-buried starship hull, pressing a plasma torch against a wound in her thigh. Sparks flew as she cauterized her flesh, her face unmoved except for the occasional twitch of pain. "Congratulations, Walker," she rasped, voice raw. "You just survived your own funeral. That suit should have killed you or burned your mind clean. Instead..." She gestured at the circle of mercenary corpses. "You're wearing the galaxy's worst nightmare like a second skin." Cade forced himself to move. Each step felt heavier than the last, like the suit wanted to root him in place, to fuse him to the battlefield forever. He reached out and rested a hand on Raisa's armored shoulder. "Tell me the rest," he said. His voice didn't even sound human anymore, filtered through layers of carbon fiber throat plates and low-frequency harmonics. A war machine's whisper. Raisa gave a grim smile. "The rest? Fine. This thing on your back, it's not just a weapon, it's a relic. Every empire that's tried to copy it has failed. The code's alive. It learns, it judges. And if it decides you're unworthy..." She gestured at the wreckage. "Then it takes over. Fights until there's nothing left but armor and ashes." Cade clenched his gauntleted fists. He could feel the other pilots inside the suit, echoes of rage, purpose, sacrifice. They weren't words in his head. They were memories, injected straight into his instincts. "So what now?" he asked. Raisa's eyes flicked up, past him into the rain-soaked dark. Shapes moved again, more mercenaries, fresh reinforcements, armored transports rumbling closer, engines snarling like wolves. The corpses of their comrades hadn't deterred them, only pissed them off. She sighed, winced as she forced herself upright. "Now? Now you accept the truth, Walker. We don't run. We don't beg. We end them." She held out her hand. For a heartbeat, Cade saw not a battered scavenger, but a general, a warrior queen who'd lost her crown but kept her teeth. He clasped her hand. The suit reacted, panels shifting, weapon ports cycling through options, selecting killing tools based on enemy heat signatures. Host confirmed. Directive: protect ally. Directive: terminate threats. Cade took one long, final breath of the free air outside his helmet, rain on his tongue, thunder in his veins. Then the grave host sealed him inside again. The first transport roared into view, spotlights carved through the dark. A voice barked through a bullhorn. "Drop the armor, step away, and you'll be spared." Raisa barked a laugh. "You gonna do that, rookie?" Cade flexed his gauntlets. The armor's claws extended, black steel glistening with fresh blood. "Not today." He turned to her, his visor flickering with the battle lust of 1,000 dead warriors. "Together?" he asked. Raisa grinned, wicked and wild. "Together." The enemy line surged forward, mercenaries, drones, plasma cannons, riot mechs, stomping through mud and wreckage. The last thing Cade heard before he charged was the grave host whispering in a voice older than the war itself. Blood. Fire. Freedom. And then he and Raisa slammed into the tide like two living storms, metal and fury tearing the night apart. In the heart of the scrapyard, under lightning and gunfire, a legend was reborn, one mercenary suit, one rookie host, and a ghost army inside a single, unstoppable man. And the galaxy would never again forget the price of trying to cage a grave host,